close the doors of your mind, close the gates of your mind, close your ears, your mouth, your nose, your mouth, all the senses in your body, in your hands and your feet that control the rest of your body, that control where you go and what you do with your yard and your kaf and your feet, your regal, and where your steps take you. And bring your mind to the bar, that it may be a light unto your way, a lamp unto your feet, and a light unto your pathway, to the way you're going. Bring your mind and your inner being to balance within yourself. Your cranial nerves, your 12 cranial nerves and your 12 melanin centers, within your liver and your kidneys, within your heart and your left and right ventricle that pumps oxygenated and deoxygenated blood throughout your body, throughout the transverse planes of your whole body, throughout the movements and patterns that you refuse to move your body in, and the stubbornness within your own body and your own self. And bring your mind to center and focus. For today is the day of the Shabbat, where Yahuwah has given to us, his people, Yasharal, that we may acknowledge him, and it be a oath, as a sign to us and to our children, those who things are far off, and those who are far off, that we may acknowledge him who made the Arats in 6 days and rested the 7th day, according to the 364-day cycle of the calendar of the Jubilee cycles of the calendar that was here before one was even born here on the earth, during the time of Hanuk, during the time of his ascension to the Shama'ims, and he revealed to him all the rays and the lunar light of the highest order. Today is the day of freedom. Today is the day of one. Today is the day that Yahuwah has given to us as a gift, a Natan, that we may be able to be renewed in the Ruach of our mind and to walk in newness of life. Because walk in newness of life is to walk in newness of life, just like the trees shed their leaves and then springtime comes back and then the leaves come back and they bear fruit again. So today we acknowledge the one who made all the heart of the earth, all in the heart of the earth, the rivers and streams on the surface and under the earth, even the river and stream that flows from New Yarushalum, from Jerusalem above, the actual kingdom of Yahuwah Elohim, that allows the river and clear water to flow with gold and all types of minerals in it, that it may allow your tree to grow and you may be planted by it, and you may bear fruit every single month in your month. So as we move forward in kindness, ahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. We move forward in the fruits of the Ruach. We move forward in love and harmony that binds everything in perfect harmony, that we may not live according to our old self, but according to our new self, in righteousness, in purity of mind, in purity of thought, in understanding that Yahuwah rules in the Malkuth of Anush, of men, of Adam, and he gives it to whomever he will. He gave it to his son Yahusha, the second Adam, after the order of Malak Sadiq. Right, so this is the book of Testament of Naphtali. This is the Testament of Naphtali. Testament of Naphtali, chapter 1, in verse 14. Verse 14. It says, "For as the potter knoweth the vessel, how much it is to contain, and bringeth clay accordingly, so also does Yahuwah make the body after the likeness of the Ruach." He makes your composite of your body after the Ruach. That's why he breathed in Adam's body. He breathed in him the Neshama, the Ruach. He said, Kai Nefesh, right? He breathed into him his Ruach, and guess what? He became a living soul. Even as the earth is a feminine. And guess what? Yahuwah sent his Ruach here to bring life to the earth. And he allowed and created things here on earth. And it says, and it bringeth clay accordingly. So also does Yahuwah make the body after the likeness of the Ruach. And according to the capacity of the body does he implant the Ruach. Right? According to the capacity of it, of the Ruach. He implant the Ruach. Right? Just like you plant a seed in the ground, and you plant it in hopes that it will spring forth and yield and give you something back. The thing that Yahuwah wants back is his halal, his simcha, right? His Iraq. He wants his faithfulness back inside of you. He wants you to gain your self-control back. He wants your gentleness, his gentleness back in you. And guess what? And it says, of the body doth he implant the Ruach, and the one does not fall short of the other by a third part of a hair. And he's like, that's how precise he measures it. For by weight and measure and rule was all creation made. So it's just like any other weight, measure, and rule. So just like there are rules and measures and things to construct things naturally, there are rules and measures and rules for him to construct, from the seven Shamayim to the Rakia, to the surface of the earth, to the center of the earth, to all the other beings and everything. He gave consciousness to. He gave them measure, breadth, width, depth, and height. He gave human beings breadth, width, depth, and height. He gave you a body with breadth, width, depth, and height. And he gave you to be unity in one body in breadth, width, depth, and height. So therefore, he constructed it with what? Weight, measures, and rules. And guess what? Your weight even has to be in proportion and correct as well. Right? It says, and as the potter knoweth the use of each vessel. Right? Let's see. Yeah. So going back up to 14. It says, for the potter knoweth the vessel, how much it is to contain and bringeth clay accordingly. So also does Yahuwah make the body after the likeness of the Ruach. So all that's a part of it. All that's a part of it. Going to verse 16. And as the potter knoweth the use of each vessel, what it is meat for, so also does Yahuwah know the body. He said he knows the body. Right? He knows your liver and your kidneys. He knows your intestines, your belly. He knows your thoughts, your inclinations, and in your inward man. He knows how many hairs you got on your head. He knows how many toes you have. He knows where your feet have gone, and he knows what your hands have done. But here we go. This is going to get. It says, for there is no condemnation or thought which Yahuwah knoweth not. For he created every man after his own image. Say what? He created every man after his own image. As every man. For as a man's strength, so also in his work, as his eye, so also is his sleep. As his soul, so also is his word. Either in the law of Yahuwah, the Torah of Yahuwah, or in the law of Balaam. So you can either obey the Torah, or you can obey the law of Satan and the teachings of Balaam in your mind. But guess what? He made every man in his own image. Right, so this Bereshit chapter 1, Aramaic Targums. Bereshit chapter 1. This is the Aramaic Targums. Jonathan. Bereshit chapter 1 and verse 20. Bereshit chapter 1, Aramaic Targums. Jonathan chapter 1 and verse 20. Actually go to verse 20. Let's go to verse 23. Go to verse 25. It says, and Elohim made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds that are clean and kinds that are not clean, and the cattle according to their kind, and all creeping things of the earth according to their kinds that are clean and kinds that are not clean. Just like you got the Torah of Yahuwah and the teachings of Satan. He said either one you can obey. It's whatever you want to do. You have to make a choice which one you're going to obey. The teaching of Yahuwah or the teachings of Balaam. And guess what it says? That are clean and not clean. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said to the Malachim who ministered before him, who were created on the second day of creation, let us make man, Adam, in our image and likeness. How are they going to make him? After his Ruach. Because every man is created in the image and likeness of you, in his image. Every man is made in his image and likeness. So, every person. And every person has a choice to make on who they're going to serve. Either Yahuwah or the teachings of Balaam, Satan. It says, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, right? and over the birds of the Shamayim of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. And Elohim created Adam in his own image and likeness. He created him with 248 members, with 665 nerves. And he formed a skin over him and filled him with flesh and blood, male and female in their appearance, and he created them. Right? So he says, so why we went there? Why? Because you're looking at things that's created, but then you see there's always something that's opposite of something else. There's always something opposite. Right? You got an evil part and you have a good part. Right? Just like we all have a good part of ourselves and you have an evil part of yourself. And depending on what type of Ra you have on the inside of you depends on how much good you will do. Right, verse 28. And Elohim baraked them and said to them, increase and multiply and fill the earth with sons and daughters and become powerful in possession upon it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the Shamayim and over every creeping animal that creeps upon the earth. Right, so everything that he gave you is in your power to do that. But therefore, if you don't want to, do what he says, then guess what happens? Then it becomes something that one has to deal with within themselves. And right, then it's a whole nother subject. Right, here we're going to go into the book of Sirach. The book of Sirach. The book of Sirach. Going to the book of Sirach, chapter. Book of Sirach, chapter. Book of Sirach, chapter 20 and verse 15. Book of Sirach, chapter 20 and verse 13. 20 and 13. A wise man by his words making him beloved. Not wise man or woman. It should be. But the graces of fools shall be poured out. Right? That's what's more in the earth now. But guess what? The gift of a fool shall do thee no good when thou hast it. Neither yet of the envious for his necessity. For he looketh to receive many things for one. Because that's what fools do. You gives one thing, and fools expecting 1,000 things back from you. He said, all you do is one thing for me. But then if a fool gives you something, just understand what they're expecting back from you. It says, he giveth little and upbraideth much, right? As soon as he give you something very small back, a fool will give you a little bit, and then guess what? They're expecting. Then he said, then they start upbraiding you with a little bit of, that's like somebody teaching you to the bar. You only give you a little bit of scripture, and then they just start upbraiding your life, right? Saying all types of things in negative speech out of their mouth, but not really giving you any type of the bar. And then guess what? That's what a fool does. And you know what happens? He opened his mouth like a crier. He said, why would they say a crier? He said he opened his mouth like a crier. He said he opened his mouth like a crier, and people don't even know what that word means, and they put it in here. And people say, what does that mean? Right? That word for crier is an officer who makes public announcements in courts of justice. It also means a crier is somebody what? Who cries and makes proclamation. The crier of a court is an officer whose duty is proclaim orders or commands of the court. To open or adjourn a court, right? To keep silence, right? That's what it says. But you know, when a fool teaches you, when a fool gives you a bar, a gift, you know, and they give you a little bit, and then they start to upbraid you, then guess what? What is that going to do for you? How's that going to make you more wiser? How is that going to make you more intelligent? How is that going to make you increase in learning? But it says right here, he opened his mouth like a crier. Today he lendeth, and tomorrow he will ask it again. Like he already waiting for it back. He give it to you one time. He be like, yeah. So when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Such And one is one to be hated of Elohim and man. He said it's supposed to be hated by Elohim and man. Why? The fool says, I have no friends. I have no thanks for all my good deeds. Why? It's just one thing he did. You did one thing, and then now it's like, oh. And it's like, it's an announcement of everything you've done. You only did one thing. And now you're expecting things to come back. And when it don't come back, you know what you do? You start upbraiding things. You start making these public announcements. You start upbraiding. How you say? Criticizing much. Right? And it says, verse 17, how many shall be laughed to scorn? For he knoweth not aright what it is to have, and it is all one unto him as he had it not. To slip upon a pavement is better than to slip with the tongue. So the fall of the wicked shall come speedily. He said it's better you to slip on the pavement, hit your back, than to slip with your tongue. Right, going to the book of Wisdom of Solomon. Wisdom of Solomon, verse 11 and 19. Wisdom of Solomon 11 and 19. Right, here we go. And it says right here, wherefore, actually Wisdom of Solomon 11:23. But thou hast mercy, actually going to verse 21. For thou canst show thy great strength at all times, when thou wilt. And who may withstand the power of thine arm? For the whole world before thee is as little grain of the balance, yea, as a drop of the morning dew that falleth down upon the earth. But thou hast mercy upon all. For thou canst do all things, and winkest at the sins of men, because they should be amended. For thou lovest all things that are, and abhorrest nothing which thou hast made. So if you think Yahuwah hates the things that he made every man in his image and likeness. And he gave every person a choice to choose to keep the Torah, or to choose to obey Balaam and the teaching of Balaam. And he made every man in his image and likeness. No matter what your outward man looks like. He made you in his image and likeness, and you know what? He gave you a choice. It says, for never wouldest thou have made anything if thou hast hated it. He said, why would you hate something you made? He said, he didn't hate it. He said, how could anything have endured if it had not been thy will, or been preserved if not called by thee? But thou sparest all. For they are thine, O Yahuwah, thou lover of souls. Yahuwah is a lover of souls. He doesn't hate your soul. He wants your soul back. That's what he wants. That's what he wants. And you say, why would he say that? This is the book of Ezekiel. This is the book of Ezekiel. The book of Ezekiel. Book of Ezekiel chapter 18, I believe. The book of Ezekiel chapter 18. Yeah, book of Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 13. Let's go 18:21. It says, but if a wicked person turns away from all his sins that he has committed, and keeps all my statutes, and does what is just and right, he shall surely live. He shall not die. Because Yahuwah, a lover of souls. None of the transgressions that he has committed shall be remembered against him. And they're going to remember, it's like being released on good behavior. For the righteousness that he has done, he shall live. Have I any pleasure in the death of the wicked, declares Yahuwah Elohim, and not rather that he or she should turn from his way and live? But when a righteous person turns away from his righteousness and does injustice and does the same abominations that the wicked person does, shall he live? None of the righteous deeds, the doings, his words, his behavior, things he done, his good deeds, his gifts, and all the things that they've done in their life that he has done shall be remembered, for the treachery of which he is guilty, and the sin he has committed, for them he shall die. Right? Yet you say the way of Yahuwah is not just. Hear now, O house of Yasharal, is my way not just? Is not your ways that are not just? When a righteous person turns away from his righteousness and does injustice, he shall die for it. For the injustice that he has done, he shall die. He says, so why would he do that? Going to verse 31. Cast away from you all transgressions that you have committed, and make yourselves a new heart. He said, and make it. He said, you got to make yourself a new heart, which means you got to practice this new way of living outside of the evil that you've done in your life. So your words have to change. Your sentences have to change. Your greetings have to change. Your understanding has to change. Your wisdom and knowledge has to change. The way you think, the way you wash your mind and your thoughts, the things you hear has to change. Everything has to change. In order for you to make a new heart, how did your heart get to where it is today? The people you are around has to change. The words that you speak has to change. Everything has to change. What you eat has to change. Everything, even the way you judge, has to change. How? How are you going to make yourself a new heart? That's on what? And a new ruach. So that's a new lave and a new ruach. Why will you die? He said, why are you going to just let yourself, why are you just going to just give up? O house of Yasharal, for I have no pleasure in the death of anyone. He said he had no pleasure in the death of nobody. Declares Yahuwah Elohim. So turn and live. He said, I have no pleasure in the death of no one. He said, so turn and live. He said, repent and live. He said, repent and live. Right? Right, this is the book of Acts. What they call the book of Acts. What they call the book of Acts. Right, this is the book of Acts chapter 17 and verse 24. The Elohim who made the world and everything in it, being master of Shamayim and earth. Why? Because he made every man in his own image and likeness. He made every man, Ish and Isha, in his image and likeness. He put man, male and female, he made them in his image and likeness. Being master of Shamayim and earth does not live in temples made by man. He don't live in buildings made by man, constructed with their yada and kaf. When all their time is spent there, he doesn't dwell in those bodies. He dwells in people's heart and mind, full of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, who have leisure. Nor is served by human hands. He said it ain't served by human hands. As though he needed anything. You think Yahuwah needs that? Since he himself gives all mankind life and breath and everything. He gives it all. So you know how people get the works of human hands? That's like planting and harvesting and building things and all these things that people boast about. Yahuwah like, I don't even need that. He said, I've built man from nothing. I built a human being from nothing. Put flesh in it and allows it to house thoughts, yetzer, imagination, and consciousness in his makashaba. And he can take in programs and he can delete programs out of his body. And even things, and expel them from their own bodies. Verse 26, and he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth. That's why he said, I made every man after his own image and likeness. Just from one person. Having determined, because they had one seed, kept reproducing on the earth. Some good and some evil. Some followed the teachings of Balaam and Satan and Satan and the other beings. Some followed his teachings. It says, and he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek Elohim and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him, perhaps feel their way. Why? Because you know why you're feeling your way? Because you're a little dim in your vision. Yet he is actually not far from each one of us. He's not. From every single person on the earth. For in him we live and move and have our being. As even some of your poets have said, we are indeed his offspring. He said that's what we are. All right, this is the Nazarene Acts of the Shaly'shy, Acts of the Apostles. The Nazarene Acts of the Apostles. The Nazarene Acts of the Apostles. Nazarene Acts of the Apostles, chapter LXIV. That's it, yeah. LXVII, this is page 86. And it says right here, if you believe, it says, then Qahalath said, if you believe concerning the true fountain of light, I could instruct you what and of what sort is that which is immense, and should render not a vain fallacy, but consistent and necessary account of the truth, and should make use none of sophistical assertions, but testimonies of Torah and nature, that you might know the Torah especially contains what we ought to believe in regard to imminency. And it says, but if the doctrine of immensity is not unknown to Torah, then assuredly naught else can be unknown to it. And therefore it is a false supposition of yours, that there is anything of which the Torah is not continent. Much more with nothing, he said, much more will nothing be unknown to him who gave Torah. Yet I cannot speak anything to you of imminency and of those things that are without limit, unless first either accept our account of those heavens that are bounded by a certain limit, or else propound your own account of them. But if you cannot understand concerning those that are comprehended within fixed boundaries, much more can you neither know nor learn anything concerning those things that are without limit. Right? So we look at all the things that has boundaries. And look at all the things that you have boundaries. Just like you have boundaries here on earth, and you go to the Rakia, and then there's a boundary between the first Shamayim all the way to the seventh. He said, but if you can't understand that, and if you can't understand that, he said, what's the point in teaching you things without limit? He said, you can't even believe these things, right? He said, you can't even understand earthly things and nature. You can't even understand the movement cycles of the earth and the actual shamash and things that are fixed in the 364-day cycle. So how can one teach you things? How can you understand it in that plane of thought without understanding that every man was made in his image and likeness? Right, so this is the book of Ode Shalom. We're going to get out there and we're going to go into this. It's Ode to Solomon, chapter 5 and verse 1. Ode Shalom, Ode 5 and verse, actually Ode 3. Let's go to Ode chapter 3. Actually, no, Ode 5. Actually, no, yeah. Ode 5 and 1. Ode to Solomon 5 verse 1. I praise you, O Yahuwah, because I love you, O Most High. Abandon me not, for you are my hope. Freely did I receive your kind. May I live by it. My persecutors will come, but let them, he said, but let them not see me. Let a cloud of darkness fall upon their eyes, and let an air of thick darkness obscure them, and let them have no light to see. so that they cannot seize me. Let their counsel become dull, so that whatever they have conspired with will return upon their own heads. So you look at all that. So why would he use all these analogies? He said, let what they conspire fall upon their own heads. He said, for they have devised a counsel, but it was not for them. And they were vanquished altogether. They were powerful. They prepared themselves maliciously, but they were found to be impotent. Indeed, my hope is upon Yahuwah. I shall not fear. Fear what? All right, this is Psalms 83. Psalms, Tahalim, chapter 83 and verse 1. Psalms 83 and 1. Psalms 83 and 1. Psalms 83 and 1. It says, O Elohim, do not keep silence. Do not hold your peace or be still, O Elohim, for behold, your enemies make an uproar. Those who hate you have raised their heads. He said they done lifted up their heads. He said, you know why they lifted up their heads? He said, those who hate you lifted up their heads. Right? He said, why would he say that? He said, those who hate me lifted up their heads. Right? This is the book of Matthew. This is the book of Matthew, Luke 18:19. Luke Oriah 18 and 9. Luke Oriah 18 and 9. He also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous. That's what they said. They lifted up their head. They trusted. And treated others with contempt. You know why? Because they say every man ain't made in his image and likeness. That's what people say. He ain't make every man in his image and likeness. Yes, he did. And they treated others with contempt. Because you know why? They did one thing. They say one thing. And then they start upbraiding. And then they start criticizing. Just like we just read in the book of Sirach. And guess what happens? Now they think they're righteous. They give you nothing for your intellectual mind. They're not trying to teach you things, as Copper wrote, so you can understand more, the limitless things. But it says right here, and treated others with contempt. 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing up by himself, prayed thus, Elohim, he was standing up, lifted up his head. I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, I give tithes of all that I get. But this tax collector, standing afar off, would not even lift up his eyes to Shamayim, but beat his breast, saying, Elohim, be merciful to me, a sinner. All right, going back to Psalms 83. Tahalim, Psalms 83. Tahalim, Psalms 83 and 1. Psalms 83 and 1. It says, O Elohim, keep not silence. Do not hold your peace or be still, O Elohim, for behold, your enemies make an uproar. Those who hate you have raised their heads. They lay crafty plans against your people. They consult together against your treasured ones. He said they make crafty counsel against your treasured ones. So who are the treasured ones? All right, going back to the same verse, right? Some people say, why are we doing this, right? Going at Luke 18:13. Or y'all 18:13. But the tax collector standing afar off would not even lift up his eyes to Shamayim, but beat his breast, saying, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. He said, man, he created an uproar. Matter of fact, for everyone who exalts himself will be humbled. But the one who humbles himself will be exalted. That's what happens. Right? This is Psalms 83 and 1. Go back to Psalms 83. Tahalim 83 in verse 3. They lay crafty plans against your people, and they consult together against your treasured ones. The ones who humble themselves. They say, come, let us wipe them out as a nation, and let the name of Yasharal be remembered no more. He said, who do you think they're coming after? The humble people. The kind ones. The ones who create an uproar. They don't like that stuff. You know what happens? For they conspire with one accord against you. They make a covenant, the tents of Edom, and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagrites, Gebal and Amnon and Amalek and Philistia and the inhabitants of Tyre, Asher, also joined to them. They are strong. He said, they are strong. They are the strong arm of the children of Lut. Selah. Do to them as they did to Midian and to Syria and Jabin at the river Kishon, who were destroyed at Endor, who became dung for the ground. Right? This is Aramaic Targums. Aramaic Targums, Bereshith, Genesis, Bereshith Genesis 4 and 1. Genesis 4 and 1. Bereshith Genesis, the Aramaic Targums, Jonathan 4 and 1. This is, and Adam knew his wife Keturah, who had conceived from Samael. So who say what? She conceived from evil, from Samael, from Satan, the Malachi, the angel of Yahuwah, Samael. Then from Adam, her husband, she bore 2 twin sisters, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain was a man tilling the earth. After a certain time, in the 14th month of Nisan, Cain brought the produce of the land and seed and flax as an offering of the first fruit before Yahuwah, and Abel on his part brought the firstling of the flock and of their fat parts. It was pleasing before Yahuwah Elohim, and he turned a friendly face toward Abel and his offering. But to Cain, his offering, he did not turn a friendly face. And this grieved Cain very much, and the expression of his face was downcast. Yahuwah said to Cain, "Why are you angry? And why is your expression of your face downcast?" Why was the man on the ground in the book of Matthew? Why was he on the ground? Why was he on the ground and wouldn't even lift up his head? Why do you think he was like that? And it says, and why is your expression in your face downcast? If you perform your deeds well, your guilt will be forgiven you. That's why he was down there. He said, have mercy on me, Yahuwah, a sinner. That's why he was down on the ground. He said, have mercy on me, a sinner. And he said he went to his house more justified than everybody else. But if you do not perform your deeds well in this world, your sins will be retained for the day of the great judgment. Who was the person who was doing, said he did all his deeds well? The man who was standing up with his head lifted up. And he was standing up and he was boasting about who he was and what he had and how much he had and what he did twice a week and how he did this. And he glad he not like this other person. But the other person on the ground, and guess what? Yahuwah said he went more justified than the other person. And if you perform your deeds well, your guilt will be forgiven you. That's what he thought. He was lifting up his head and he was boasting. Man, he creating an uproar. He think he's somebody. But then not even knowing, why is this important to know? But if you do not perform your deeds well in the world, your sins will be retained for the great day of judgment. He said, sin crouches at the gates of your heart. It crouches at the gates of your heart. It crouches at the gate of your body. It crouches at your 2 eyes, your 2 ears. It comes out of your mouth. It's inside of your belly, your stomach, your liver, and your kidneys. It's inside of your left and right ventricle. It's pumping throughout the rest of your body, in your hands and your feet. And guess what? It stays there. It's in you. As a matter of fact, and it says, if you perform your deeds well, your guilt will be forgiven you. But if you do not perform your deeds well, in this world, your sins will be retained for the great day of judgment. Sin crosses at the gate of your heart. But in your hand, I have placed power over the evil inclination. He did. Why do you think you had the 2 men come before Yahuwah, and then you had the one who was lifted up, who was high, and who was not humble, and he was exalted, and then you had the other person who was down and low. When Cain offered his gift to Yahuwah, he was high and lifted up and exalted in his mind. And then you see Abel, Hahabal, He said, I saw a friendly face to yours. Because you know what how Habal was doing? Have mercy on me, Yahuwah, a sinner. He said, have mercy on me. That's why he accepted his offering. That's why when he went back, that's why Cain was like, hold up, why are you accepting his and not mine? If you perform your deeds well, your guilt will be forgiven. But if you do not, if you perform your deeds well, you will be great day of judgment. Verse 16. Its desire will be towards you, but you will have dominion over it. Why? Because he said desire. It's going to be desiring you. That evil inclination wants you. It wants to cohabitate with you. It wants to be with you. It wants you to strengthen it. It wants you to give it some water and keep watering it, just like any other plant in the earth. But get what it says. Its desire will be towards you, but you will have dominion over it, whether to be innocent or to sin. Either one. And Cain said to his brother, Habal, come, let us both go aside. When the two of them had gone outside, Cain spoke up and said to Abel, I see that the world was created with mercy. Right? That's what people do. When they see that you're, how you say, in that state of mind, and they see Yahuwah accepting your offering, and you know what they do? Let's come on, man. Let's meet together. Let's talk. And you know what happens after that? They start speaking sweet words to you. How you say? Smooth speech. And then guess what it becomes? Right? Guess what it becomes? A quarrel. Right? But this is the whole point of that. Right, going back to ODE, go to Odes of Solomon. Odes of Solomon, chapter 9. Actually, Odes of Solomon. ODE Shaloma, chapter. ODE Shaloma, Odes of Solomon 13, ODE 13 and 1. It says, behold, Yahuwah is our mirror. Open your eyes and see them in him. Open your eyes and see them in him. And learn the manner of your face. Then announce praises in his ruach. And wipe the paint from your face. He said, wipe the paint from your face. What do you mean by that? And love his Qhdsh and put it on. Then you will be unblemished at the times with him. Why would he say? He said, Yahuwah is your mirror. Why would he say that? Because there's a reason why it's in there. Right, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 8. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 8. Actually, 1 Corinthians 13 and 1. If I speak in tongues of men and of Malachim, right, I can speak in tongues of Adam, of many languages, Lashon on the earth. You can speak in the tongue of the Malachim. Right? Just like Yahusha did to the Malachim when they were making the winds and the waves on the ship in Mark 4. He said, Shalom Malachim, Shalom Malachim. Right? But have not love, Ahab, I am a noisy gong and a clanging cymbal. He said, you don't have no love in your heart. You can't even join the marriages in love without love. He said, you just a person. He says, but have not love, I am a noisy gong and a clanging cymbal. You're just like a marching band. Hitting bunch of cymbals, making a bunch of noise if you ain't got no love in your heart and you try to join in a marriage. He said, look at me, and you just want somebody to love you and want you, but you don't have no ahab in your heart. It says, and if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, right? You got many deceptions out here. You got people who can do prophecies as well, do all types of spell casting, remote viewing, and doing all these things, and they can tell the future too. And he said, understand all mysteries and all knowledge. You can do that without love. You can. You can understand all the books. You can read them all. You can write them all down. Matter of fact, he said you can make 1,000 books before you die. Matter of fact, you can understand every word that's in it more than anybody. If I have all Amunah, so as to remove mountains, you can remove. You say you have the grain faith, Amunah, grain of a mustard seed, and say this mountain be thou removed and be cast into the sea. You can speak to the mountains and the ridges and the hillsides just like Yakaziah. Man, you make the dry bones live. But have not Ahab love, I am nothing. He said, I have no love. I have no Ahab for Yahuwah. I have no Ahab for his word. I have no Ahab for the things that he's allowed me to see and understand and give. If I give all that I have to the poor, if I deliver my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. So you can look as beautiful as you want. Outwardly, you can eat all the herbs and all the plants of the earth. You can eat the best diet. Matter of fact, you can consume every single thing on the earth that makes you feel healthy, and that makes you feel like you somebody. You can understand all knowledge and wisdom and understanding. It'll give you a great high too. It does in your mind. It'll make you feel like something. But what is the deception of that? If I give all that I have and I deliver my body to be burned, but I have not love, I gain nothing. So you can even give yourself and be a martyr. And you don't have no Ahab. Guess what? Verse 4. Love, Ahaba is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable and resentful. You know what irritable is? I mean, anything is so small it'll set you off. And you know what people do? The same people, this is how this world is. The same people who actually cause your irritability, they'll literally the very same people when it affects you in a negative way, and you know what they'll say? They'll flip it around, knowing that they push your buttons and say it was you. But that's the children in the marketplace. But wisdom is justified in their children. Verse 6 says, it does not rejoice at wrongdoing. That's what a lot of people do. He said you wouldn't dare rejoice in wrongdoing. But rejoices with the truth. That's why. The commandment is a lamp, and I say the commandment is a lamp, and the Torah is a light. Correction and reproof is a way of life. The righteousness is everlasting right. The Torah is the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things. How you say? Hopes all things, endures all things. That's what Ahab does. Ahab endures everything. It hopes all things. It believes all things. And guess what? If you don't have Ahab on the inside, love, Ahaba, he said, you're nothing. You're nothing. Right verse says, Ahab never ends. That's the everlasting life. And just like wisdom is the tree of life, it's never going to end. As for prophecies, it's many prophecies. Things that may or may not come to pass. As for prophecies, they will pass away. They're all going to pass away. As for tongues, all the judgment calls, well, if he spoke in the name of Yahuwah and they come to pass, then we don't have to hearken to that. Now, it may come to pass, it may not. All that stuff going to pass away. You know what it says? They will pass away. As for tongues, you can understand all language. Lashon, you can understand Abri Lashon, Abri Lashon. You can understand Geese. You can understand Triginian. You can understand South African. You can understand English, Swiss German. They say you can understand Mandarin, Spanish. Right? You can understand the ancient language of the Maya or the Inca people. You can figure out all the hieroglyphs of Mizraim and all the different what the animals mean and what these snakes on the back of their neck. Matter of fact, you can figure it all out. But it says right here, as for knowledge, it will pass away. It's going to pass away. For we know in part and we know but in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. All that when the perfect comes. When a higher truth comes, then all of that knowledge, he said, you know what? It's going to pass away. When I was a child, when you was a child, when you were like Adam, untrained in discerning between good and evil, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But what happened? When I became mature, amen, I gave up childish ways. Why? Because love, ahab, is greater than all that. Ahab is the behavior, love is the behavior of a man. A true man. Ahab. For we now see in a mirror dim. We looking in what? In a mirror dimly. Because Yahuwah never hated anything he created. He's a lover of souls. Because love is a true man. Ahava. He's a lover of souls. He wants everybody to turn from their ways and live. That's a true man. Now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part. He said, I can see him face to face. What do you mean see him face? What do you mean face to face? What does he mean by that? It says, in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now, Amunah, belief, Tikva, hope, and love abide. These three. But the greatest of these is love. He said that's the greatest of them. Out of all that, out of everything you can figure out, everything you can understand, you know how about the odds within your inner man and inner being, all the things you can explain or figure out or comprehend. After all that is finished, do you have any love, ahab, in your life? Right, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 25. Book of Psalms, chapter 24, and verse 5. Actually, Psalms 25 and 5. Psalms 25 and 5. It says, lead me in your truth and teach me. For you are the Elohim of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long. You know what's going to make you wait all day long? Love. Aha. That's what's going to make you wait. Remember your mercy, O Yahuwah, and your steadfast love. He's literally called. He said, Yahuwah, you're a true man. You're a true Allah. You're a true father. He said, man, remember your steadfast love, because that's a true man. He said, remember your steadfast love, right? So the book of Proverbs, the book of Psalms, chapter 25, the word for love. Psalms chapter 25, word for love, and 6, the word for love. He says, remember, O Yahuwah, thy tender mercies and thy loving kindness. Right? That word for love is kasid. He said, remember your kindness. Remember your kindness. Remember your beauty. Remember your kindness. You know how he talked about in Psalm 45? He said, forget your father and your people in your father's house, and the king will, and the malach will desire your beauty. How you going to do that? Love. But it said right here, remember your steadfast love. Remember your steadfast kindness, your love. For they have been from of old. Remember not the sins of my youth. You know, those seeds that were sown when you were young, and those things that came up, and those behaviors from your youth, from you were 10, 15, 5, 7, the things that you ain't know from the time you were just born, when you just got, people say, I just got immersed and transformed, but hey, you're still the same old person that you were before. So people that are like, oh, it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter how much they think they know. They say, oh, I never I've never done anything. It could be a pastor, a teacher, a leader, a prophet, a mother, father, sister, brother, man, woman, or child. It could be a prophet, a bishop, or anybody, any with a title. They all come from the sins of their youth. They have it in their heart. Immersion just makes your conscience feel safe because you say, I'm immersed. I at least did that in my life. But inside you, he said, you have an in-depth thought process and in-depth sins that you committed that nobody knows about. And you know what happens? Those are the sins of your youth. Because some of them you just forgot. But he said some of those things start to spring up around this time. And he said, remember not the sins of my youth or my transgressions. According to your steadfast love, remember me. For the sake of your goodness, O Yahuwah. So we look at a true man. Because that's what he is. Verse 8 says, good and upright is Yahuwah, therefore he instructs sinners in the way. Have mercy on me, a sinner. That's why you got to say it. So how in the world, people say, I ain't never did anything wrong. I'm not a sinner. He said, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's what that man said. And you know who he going to instruct? Oh, let me guess. He's going to instruct the man who stood up. I fast twice a week. I did all these things, all his feats and accomplishments. You think that's the person he's going to instruct and give knowledge to? Just like Yeshayahu 66 said, he said, to whom shall I look? Him who is a poor and contrite heart. That's the person I must ask to build my house. He says, remember not thy sins of my youth or my transgression. This is what you have to pray. According to your steadfast love, remember me for the sake of your goodness, O Yahuwah. Good and upright is Yahuwah, therefore he instructs sinners in the way. He leads the humble in what is right. And teaches the humble his way. He's not going to teach the exalted his way. He's not. All the paths of Yahuwah are steadfast, love, and faithfulness. What do you mean love, steadfast, love, and faithfulness? Because that's a true, if you don't have a hob, you are nothing. You're not like Yahuwah. You don't have a hob. He said, and faithfulness. Because when you're faithful to a berith, a covenant, that means you have love for it. When you don't, you just cast it away like it ain't nothing. A hob is something that you love, and therefore you will not break it. For those who keep his covenant, he says, all the paths of Yahuwah are steadfast love and faithfulness for those who keep his covenant and his testimonies. If you honor it, he said, I will have a hob for you. But if you don't, he said, but if you don't, what type of love is that? He said, there's no love in that. Right? If most people don't read the book, but if most people go read it, just go count how many times it say love in it. He said, we're going to read one more of it. Right? One more. One more. This is Psalm chapter 5. Psalm chapter 5. Actually, let's go to Psalms chapter. Let's go to Psalms 44. Actually, let's go to Psalms 40. Tehillim chapter 40 and verse 13. Psalm chapter 40 verse 13. Be pleased, O Yahuwah, to deliver me, O Yahuwah. Make haste to help me. Let those who be put to shame and disappointed altogether. Why? Because they all, let them be put to shame and disappointed. Because all the stuff that man was doing, he was praying. I'm glad I'm not like this person. I'm glad I ain't no liar like him. I'm glad I don't teach like him. I'm glad I ain't misspoke like him. I'm glad I'm not like, I'm glad, man, look at me. I fast twice a week. Man, as a matter of fact, I read every morning, noon, and evening. I work out twice a day. I feel my thing. I do all the things that you told me to do. Matter of fact, when things come up, I make sure I do it immediately. Your steadfast love and your faithfulness, going to verse 14. Be pleased, O Yahuwah, and deliver me. O Yahuwah, make haste to help me. Let those be put to shame and disappointed altogether who seek to snatch away my life. You know what it says? Let those be turned back and brought to dishonor who delight in my hurt. They delight to see you in that state. They delight to see you in that mindset. They delight to see you. You know why? Let those be appalled because of their shame, who say to me, aha, aha. You know how I say, aha, look, see what he did? Aha, you saw what he did? You see what he just said? They say, aha, aha. But may all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who love your salvation say continually, great is Yahuwah. They say for all those who love your salvation, they say, great is who? Great is themselves. You know how that man was praying, boasting about how great he was. Was he not? He said, I'm glad I'm not like this tax collector. But guess what he did? He said, great is Yahuwah. He says, so why would you call yourself great? Why would you call yourself great? Right, so that word for love in that verse, in verse 16, is ahab. It means to have affection. It means a friend. To have affection for his salvation. He said, be a friend. He said, say continually, great is Yahuwah. As for me, I am poor and needy. To him will I look. That's why he's going to instruct the humble in the way, the sinners. He's not going to instruct people who are exalted in mind. Why would he give you intellect and knowledge and understanding? It makes no sense. It'll go against his own word, because you know he can't be a liar like man. But Yahuwah takes thought for me, because he has to, because that's just the bar. You are my help and my deliverer. Oh, do not delay, oh my Elohim. He said, please don't delay. Why? Because it's important. Because it's important. It's important. Right? Going to the book of First Chronicles. Going to First Chronicles. Here we go. First Chronicles. First Chronicles chapter. First Chronicles. Oh yeah, this is chapter 9. Yeah. First Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 22. First Dabarim Hayamin. First Chronicles 9 verse 22. 9 verse 22. All these were chosen as gatekeepers at the threshold. Were 212. They were enrolled by genealogies in their villages. David and Samuel or Shamuel the seer established them in their office of trust. So they and their sons were in charge of the gates of the house of Yahuwah, that is, the house of the tent, as guards. As guards. Why have guards? Why? The gatekeepers were on the four sides: the east, the west, the north, and the south. This is why you got to guard your body. You have to guard yourself. Matter of fact, in all four sides, in all four corners. Matter of fact, in all four corners of the altar. It says, and their kinsmen were living in their villages, were obligated to come in every 7 days, in turn to be with these. For the chief gatekeepers, who were Levites, were entrusted to be over the chambers of the treasurers of the house of Elohim. Why? Because they were guarding the treasures on the inside. That's why they had guards. And that's why you got to guard yourself. Wow. This is right here. And it says, and the treasures of the house of Elohim. And they lodged around the house of Elohim, for on them lay the duty of watching. Of what? Of watching. Yeah, because every man is made in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. Matter of fact, everyone was made in the image and likeness. And he told them to abad and shamar in the gun. To guard and observe and be a servant. Because it's always a night of much watching. Just like we came out of Mizraim. I told you it was a practice. When I first said, when we talked about it, I said it was a practice for the whole year. Every single night. But he's going to instruct the humble in the way, though. He's not going to give it, how you say, I'm not going to give it humility, and those ain't humble, and they're not a sinner. Because, I ain't no sinner. I ain't never did nothing. So, okay, then you're not the person he's not trying to instruct. And he said, you won't understand it even if somebody spoke it 1,000 times with 100 blows, 1,000 blows. You ain't going to understand it. He says, and they lodged around the house of Elohim, for on them lay the duty of watching. They had charge of opening it every morning. How you say, close the doors of your mind. Close the gates. You open when you open the gate. When the morning star comes. So the sun can shine in you. You supposed to open every morning because there's not much watching. You got to watch during the night, and you got to open the gates when the sun comes. But guess what happened? Some of them had charge of the utensils of service, for they were required to count them when they were brought in and taken out. They say you were required. So what do you think you guys do every day? He said, you're in charge of this. You. Others of them were appointed over the furniture and over the Qahalath temple utensils, also over the fine flour of the wine, the oil, the incense, and the spices. Isn't that what you're supposed to offer to Yahuwah every morning? In Leviticus chapter 2. That's you. Others and the sons of the priests prepared the mixing of the spices, the Mattiah and the Levites, and the firstborn of Shalom and the Qahalath was entrusted with making the flat cakes. You say, I don't want to do anything. But he said, I instruct the humble in the way. Humble people are servants. And he said they had a dispute among themselves with Yahusha. Who was the greatest among them? You know how to say greatness. We supposed to say great is Yahuwah. Yahuwah says, let the leader be as the youngest. Let the greatest among you be as the youngest, and the leader as one who serves. I don't want to make no bread, no flat cakes, and count the utensils, and guard the gates, and do all of that. Why would I want to do that? And make cakes? Verse 32, also some of their kinsmen and the Qahalath are in charge of the showbread to prepare it every Shabbat. What's today? I don't want to do nothing. I ain't no servant. Abad. I guess you ain't humble then. All this is all part. He said whether male or female. I don't want to make nothing. Now these, guess what else? Now these, the singers, the heads of the father's house of Louis, were in the chambers of the temple, free from other service, right? For they were on duty day and night. So when you supposed to stop? Now you see why Testament of Yitzhak said, man, the office of a priest is hard. He said you got to keep yourself every single day. Matter of fact, when you make petition, it'll go straight to him. It won't. He said, you see all the stuff you got to do and abstain from? It's not some thing, right? Now, and guess what it says? For they were on duty day and night. These were the heads of the father's houses of the Levites. These were the heads, the chiefs. According to their generations, leaders. They were what? Leaders. So who the leaders today? He said these are leaders. These lived in Jerusalem. And you say, so these are the type of people that's going to be there. You say, so what does that mean, right? This is the book of Revelation, Hazum. Revelations, Hazum. Revelations, Hazum. Chapter 20 and verse 1. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 1. Revelations chapter 20 and verse 1. Actually, go to 21. Revelation chapter 21 and verse 1. Sorry. Revelation 21 and 1. Then I saw a new Shamayim and a new earth. And the first Shamayim and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the Chdsh city, New Yarushalum, coming down out of Shamayim from Elohim, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. But you know what happens when you get a bride and you got a husband? You know you got to take care of things. You got to prepare things. You got to guard things. You got to make sure things are offering day and night. As a matter of fact, these are the leaders in Jerusalem who prepare these things every single day, and who's on guard at the four gates: north, south, east, and west. They all around. They all soldiers. They guarding. They're doing all these things within. You got to guard on the outside, and you got to prepare on the inside. And you got to clean on the inside of your body. And you got to be thoroughly furnished inside of your body. You got to have all your utensils count. You know how you have silverware in your house? You have all these things. You have all these gold utensils and all these things in your house, and you got to do all this stuff. This is the same thing you got to do with your body. That's why we read in the book of Acts, he said, Yahuwah dwelleth not in temples made with what? Hands. We are all his offspring, created in his image and likeness. He wants every man to be on guard. He wants every man and woman to be on guard. He wants every man and woman to prepare and have the flying flour and the spices and preparing the showbread and all of the lakam and make cakes every single day. That's what he wants every man to do, and to offer him something every single day. And you know what happens when you do that? And I saw Qahalath city, Jerusalem, New Jerusalem, coming down from Shamayim to prepare where they brought adorned for a husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, from the sapphire thrones up here, to say, behold, the dwelling place of Elohim is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And Elohim himself will be with them as their Elohim. Going to verse 5. And he who was seated on the throne, behold, I am making all things new. Like we just talked about other Jerusalem. That the temple that was made with hands, that people, the service that they had. Well, now you see a temple not made with hands, and you know what? Hands of man, human beings. He said, I make all things new. And he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. And he said to me, it is done. I am the Aleph and the Two, the beginning and the end. He said, why would he say that? He said, why would he say, I am the Aleph and the Two? Because that's how he made the world. I made it with the 22 letters of the alphabet. The very same city, Chdsh, Yarushalum, was made with the alphabet. The very thing, the very fabric of who you are, your essence of your being, was made with the alphabet. All of the things that you understand within your inner man and your inner being was made with the alphabet. All things you see was made with the alphabet, the Abri Shun. And guess what? And it started with Abri started with an iron. Because your eyes have to be open to see it. And he only instruct the humble. He said the sinner in the way. Right? So this is the book of Revelations, Hazum. This is the book of Revelations. Revelation chapter 19. I think it's 19. Yeah, 19. Revelation chapter 19, verse 10. Revelation chapter 19, verse 10. Just trying to find. Revelation chapter 19, verse 10. Hazum chapter 19 and verse 10. Yeah. Revelation chapter 19, verse 10. It says, "And I fell down at the feet to worship him who said to me, you must do." Then I fell down at the feet and worshiped him. But he said to me, you must not do that. I am your fellow Abad with you and of your brothers, Akim, who hold the testimony of Yahushua. Worship Elohim Yahuwah. For the testimony of Yahushua is the Ruach of prophecy. And get what he said. Then I saw Shamayim open, and behold, a white horse, and one sitting on it is faithful and true, and righteousness he judges and makes war. He said he would ride on a horse. People said, oh, he would ride on a white horse. You know, like a horse you see when people riding on a horse. You think that was the horse he was riding on? You know, the horse that they see people ride, you know, they get on the horse and they start riding it. You think that's the type of horse he was riding on? Right, going to Revelation 21, Revelation 21, 24. Revelation 21, 24. Revelation 21, 22. And I saw no temple in the city. Why? Because Yahuwah dwells not in temples made with hands. He don't. We just read about one in Dabri HaYamim, chapter 9, right? But guess what? They were doing service in it. For it is, he says, and I saw no temple in the city, for its temple is the master, Elohim, the Al-Shadi, and the Lamb, Yahushua. And the city had no need of the sun, moon, to shine on it. Remember, they opened the gates. When they did their offering, they opened the gates when the sun rose in the morning. But he said, you ain't gonna need it no more. To shine, you don't need it to shine on it. For the kabod of Elohim gives light, gives it light, it gives it aura. And its a lamp is the lamb, is the its menorah is Yahushua Mashiach. And the kabod of Yahuwah gives it light. It says, by its light will the nations goyim walk, and the kings of the earth will bring their kabod into it, and its gates will never be shut by day. And there will be no night there. They always going to be open. They will bring into it the kabod and the honor of the goyim, but nothing unclean will ever enter it, nor anyone who does what is detestable or false. And that's how your body should be. Nothing unclean shall enter it, or nothing detestable or false. That's why you gotta be on guard. In all four sides of it, in all four corners. Matter of fact, it shouldn't even come near you, in you. But only those who are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. That's the only thing that should come inside of your body. Anything that any person or any being that's written in the Lamb's Book of Life, or that's on the path to get to the Lamb's Book of Life, and they written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and you know it. He said, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. But the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. For the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. Why? Right, verse 22. Then the Malachim showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of Elohim, from the Qahalath and the sapphire throne, and of the Lamb through the middle of the street of the city. Also, on either side of the river, the tree of life was bearing 12 kinds of fruit. Right, that's all point. Right? Going back to First Kings, chapter 8, and verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 1. It says, and Shaluma assembled the elders of Yasharal and all the heads of the tribes, the leaders of their fathers' houses, of the people of Yasharal, before King Shaluma in Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah out of the city of David, which is Saum. And all the men of Yasharal assembled to King Shaluma at the feast in the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th month. I say Shabua Chdsh, right? Which is the 7th month. And all the elders of Yasharal came, and the priests took up the ark. Right, going to verse 8. And the poles were so long that the ends of the poles, going to verse 8, were seen from the Qahalath place before the inner sanctuary. But they could not be seen from the outside. And they are there to this day. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets of the stone that Moshe put there in Horeb, where Yahuwah made a covenant with the people of Yasharal when they came out of the land of Mizraim, and when the priests came out of the Qahalath place. A cloud filled the house of Yahuwah, so that the priests could not stand to minister before the cloud, because of the cloud. Because of the cloud. He said they can't even minister because of the cloud. For the kabod of Yahuwah filled the house of Yahuwah. He said when the cloud come back, you know the cloud that Yahusha left on? You know the cloud that he left out? He said the kabod of Yahuwah filled the house of Yahuwah, just like the book of Hazon. He said when the cloud come back, all this stuff ain't, he said it's going to be irrelevant. Right, verse 12 says, then Shaluma said to Yahuwah has said that he would dwell in thick darkness. I have indeed built you an exalted house, a place for you to dwell and live forever. Yahuwah dwell not in temples made with hands. But he said, I built you an exalted house. Then the king turned around and Barak all the assembly of Yasharal, while all the assembly of Yasharal stood. And he said, Barak be Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yasharal, who with his hand has fulfilled what he promised with his mouth to David, my father, saying, since the day that I brought my people out of the land of Mizraim, I chose no city out of all the tribes of Yasharal in which to build a house, that my name might be there. But I chose David to be over my people Yasharal. He chose David. Now it was in the heart of David, my father, to build a house for my name of Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yasharal. He said, is it in your heart to build a house for Yahuwah? But Yahuwah said to David, my father, whereas it was in his heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. It was well in your heart to build a natural house, a natural temple, a place where people, Yahuwah's name can dwell there. Because when the cloud came, the priest couldn't even minister. He's like, it was good that you did that. It was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, for your son shall be born. To you shall build a house for my name. He said he gonna build it. And you know what happened after that? He said, it's good that it's in your heart too, to do it. But there's always something better, right? This is Yochanan chapter 2, verse 18. So the Yahudim said to him, what sign do you show us for doing these things? Right, going up to verse 15. Verse 13, Yochanan 2:13. The Pesach of the Yahudim was at hand. So people saying they ain't got to do Pesach. So how you believe on the same Elohim, the same Savior that's supposed to give salvation and build a house for David, He's supposed to be his son to build the house. How are you going to get salvation? It says the Pesach of the Yahudim, the Passover, was at hand, and Yahushua went up to Yarushalum. Why? Because this is Jerusalem on earth. You know, the temple where people did all the service and guarding it on 4 gates. But it says right here, in the temple, he found those who were selling oxen and sheep and pigeons to the money changers sitting there. And making whips of cords, he drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. He beat their behind out of the temple. Just like a father does children. When they're doing nothing, they're doing opposite of what he said in the beginning. And he poured out the coins of the money changers, turned it all into gain. The gold and silver, you know, that's supposed to stay in the ground. In the Garden of Eden, the gun, they were using it and turned it into wealth in an interchanging commerce system. And yet what he said, he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And he told those who sold the pigeons, take these things away and do not make my father's house a house of trade. He's like, we're not here to trade. His disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of your house has consumed me. So the Yahudim said to him, what sign do you show us for doing these things? Yahushua said to them, destroy this temple in 3 days, and I will raise it up. You know, that same temple that we just read about? He said, I'll destroy it. He said, I'll destroy this temple, and in 3 days, I'll raise it right back up again. The Yahudim said, it has taken 6 years to build this temple, and will you raise it up in 3 days? But he was speaking about the temple of his body. Because Yahuwah dwelleth not in temples made with hands. Matter of fact, neither should you think that. But he was speaking about the temple of his body. When therefore he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered, because you know this is after the account after he was risen. These are accounts that were written after they got the power of the Ruach Qahalath on Shabua, which we just passed. That's when they started writing this. That's why it says that. And he remembered that he had said this. They believed the scripture and the word that Yahushua had spoken. Why? He said, destroy this temple and rebuild it in 3 days. He said, I'm going to build it in 3 days. But he said, and the thing about it, or this is the book of Acts. This is the book of Acts. Chapter 2, verse 23. This Yahushua delivered up according to the definite plan of foreknowledge of Elohim, you crucified and killed by the hands of lawless men, jealous and envious and hateful men. Elohim raised him up, loosing the pains of death, because it was not possible for him to be held by it. For Dawid says concerning him, I saw Yahuwah always before me, for he is at my right hand, that I may not be shaken. Therefore my heart was glad and my tongue rejoiced. My flesh also will dwell in hope. Skipping over to verse 29. It said, brothers, I may say to you with confidence. That's all it's about. You got to have confidence when you're talking about this stuff too. You got to have real confidence. Because the only thing that people are going to do is try to say it's not true. He said, brothers, I may say to you with confidence about the patriarch Dawid, that he has both died and was buried, and his tomb is with us to this day. He died. He said, it was good in his heart to build me a house, but he said, your son gonna build a house. And his tomb is with us to this day. It's there. But being therefore a Nabi, knowing that Elohim had sworn with an oath to him that he should set one of his descendants on his throne, he foresaw and spoke about the resurrection of the Mashiach, that he was to be not abandoned to Hades, nor did his flesh see corruption. This Yahushua also Elohim raised up, and of that we are witnesses. Being therefore exalted at the right hand of Elohim, and having received from the Father the promise of the Kudash Ruach, he poured out this that you yourselves are seeing and hearing. For David did not ascend into Shamayim, but he himself says, Yahuwah said to my master, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool, right? Did all that, right? So going to, almost finished. This is the book of Job, EU. Actually, going back to First Chronicles. Going to First Chronicles chapter 23 and verse 1. It says right here, when David was old and full of days, he made Shaly'shy his son king over Yasharal. Right. Skipping over to verse, in that same verse 24. Actually, go to verse 25. First Chronicles 23:25. For David said, Yahuwah, the Elohim Yasharal, has given rest to his people, and he dwells in Yarushalum forever. What he gonna do? In the book of Hazum, we just read. And so the Levites no longer need to carry to do what? So the Levites no longer need to carry the tabernacle or any of the things of its service. Because Yahuwah dwelleth not in temples made with hands. He said it didn't have no need of the Shamash, the Kukab, and the Yard. He said for Yahuwah, for the Yahusha is the manure, and Yahuwah is the light thereof. For by the last words of David, these were the what? For by the last words of Dawid, the son of Dawid, the sons of Louis were numbered from 20 years old and upward. For their duty was to assist the sons of Aharon for the service of the house of Yahuwah, having the care of the courts, the chambers, and cleansing of all that is Qhdsh, and any work of service of the house of Elohim. He's saying, look at here. That's what you have to do for yourself, your body. Their duty was also to assist with the showbread and the flour of the grain and the offerings and the wafers and the unleavened bread, and the baking offering and the offering mixed with oil and all measures of quantity of size. And they were to stand every morning thanking and praising Yahuwah, and likewise at evening. So what do you think you're supposed to do every day? Now you're saying you're saved, and you walking in the light of this city, and you saying you're a Kohanim and a priest of Yahuwah, creating his image and likeness. So every man is created in his image and likeness, and everybody's made to do the service, Abad and Shamar. And everybody's supposed to offer praise in morning and evening sacrifices. As a matter of fact, and whenever burnt offerings were offered to Yahuwah on the Shabbos, on the new months, and the feast day, and the Chags, on the feast days, according to the number required of them regularly before Yahuwah. Thus they were to keep charge of the tent of the meeting and the sanctuary, and attend to the sons of Aaron and the brothers for the service of the house of Yahuwah. And the sad part, he said that's what you're supposed to do. But he said he's going to instruct the humble in the way, the sinners in the way. I'm going to instruct the sinner. The one, this person I look, him, and he or she was of a humble and contrite heart. He said, Shaly'shy is my throne, the earth is my footstool. What house will you build for me? It should be in your heart to build one too. It's good that it's there. And you know what, if it's good too, if it's there and it's good, then you should do all the service of it too. You should guard it, keep it, make sure nothing unclean or abominable enters. Only things that should enter in is that's what's written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Anything that's written in the Lamb's Book of Life, the good behaviors that's written in the Lamb's Book of Life, is the only thing that should dwell inside. Anything else shouldn't be there. Because you know what's the greatest thing that should be inside of you? Love. Aha. Because that's the greatest thing. You know what kindness is? Aha. Ahab also includes peace. Right, so this is the book of First Chronicles. Actually, First Corinthians. First Corinthians chapter. Go to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 16. 14. Yeah, let's go 1 Corinthians. Yeah, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 16. Actually, verse 15. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Mashiach? Because you just talked about he's going to destroy the temple in 3 days. Destroy the temple in 1 day and build it back in 3 days. He's talking about the temple of his body. So if you're a part of the temple of his body, and you see the offerings that you're going to make every morning and evening, and you see all these things that he created for the people that's going to be members of him, shall I then take, he says, do you not know that your bodies are members of Mashiach? Shall I then take the members of Mashiach and make them members to a prostitute? Because nothing abominable or unclean is supposed to enter into the city in book of Revelation. Hazum. Matter of fact, never. That's what it says. Never. You know, idol worshipers, things that are abominable, unclean, things that you put in your body. Or do you not know that he who is joined to a harlot, a prostitute, becomes one body with her? You take on every single aspect of that human being. It's just like fusing consciousness together, and you gotta adjust your whole body and your whole mind to adjust to that. And you know what that's going, and you understand that? You have to adjust your whole consciousness, your whole body, so everything can be in oneness. You gotta fuse all timelines together. Everything that's inside of that, you think about that. Shall he do that? He made all things new. But he said right here, 2, a prostitute becomes one body with her, for as it is written, the two will become one flesh. He said every single attribute of that human being, that's every single attribute, you're going to become one flesh with it, which means 2 going to become, you're going to be a fusion. Every cell, every defect, every single thing that they deal with, all is going to be in your mind at one time. That's what happens when you join to an idol worshiper. Things that Yahuwah doesn't like. That's what happens when you join in marriages without health in your body and no love. You literally create your chaos. Verse 17, but he who is joined to Yahuwah becomes one Ruach, spirit with him. You become one Ruach. Flee sexual morality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body. But the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. Or do you not know that your body is the temple of the Qahalath Ruach within you? You know what happens after that? Whom you have from Yahuwah, Elohim. You are not your own. He said, behold, I make all things new. For you were bought with a price. He said, I'm my own. I can do what I want. No, you can't. All of the things, the practices of the Kohanim when they were in the temple, and the things that they had to do within the temple on a daily basis, morning and in the evening, and all the things they had to do in purifying and cleansing, you guys do on a daily basis. And you can't omit not one part of it. For the washing and cleaning and making sure everything's pure, and the showbread and the cakes every single morning. You gotta have an offering every morning and evening. For you were bought with a price, so kabod Yahuwah in your body. Right? This is kabod Yahuwah in your body. Right? This is Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls. Dead Sea Scrolls. Dead Sea Scrolls. This is volume 1. Yeah, Dead Sea Scrolls. Going to this is 4Q 1Q 1QS 1QS 1 through 11. 1QS 1 through 11. This is page 71. Let's go to verse 4. I say go to verse 3. He commanded by the hand of Mashah and by the hand of all his servants, the Nabi'im, in order to love everything which he selects, and to hate everything he rejects. Right? In order to keep oneself at a distance from all evil. So anything Yahuwah don't like, you got to keep yourself away from it. Anything he rejects, you got to keep yourself away from it. If you don't, and you know he's the light of the city, New Yarushalum. Matter of fact, Yahusha is the manure. So you already know if Yahuwah don't like it in the city, that's why you gotta keep yourself from all unclean, all abominable things. Never let it enter your body. Right, going back, it says, and he commanded by the hand of Mashah and by the hand of all the servants, the Nabi'im, in order to love everything which he selects, and hate everything he rejects, in order to keep oneself at a distance from all evil, and to become attached to all good works, in order to do truth and justice and uprightness on earth, and not walk anymore in the stubbornness of a guilty heart and or lecherous eyes, performing everything evil, in order to welcome all those who freely volunteer to carry out Elohim's decree into the covenant of kindness. You know, his love, his steadfast love. That's a true man. A true ish, a true man, a true isha, a true woman, male and female, walks in kindness and love, and keeps himself from all evil, and anything Yahuwah doesn't like, you should not like it. And anything he rejects, you should reject it too. You shouldn't even let it into your heart and your mind. You shouldn't even let it into your ears, your eyes, your mouth. Matter of fact, he said they shouldn't even get that far. Why do you think Yahushua was silent in the midst of all that? Matter of fact, he was in the midst of strife, false accusations, slandering, people punching him in the face, kicking him, spitting in his face, making him throw in heavy things, nailing him in his hand. And you know what he did? He sat there right in the midst of it, and he didn't allow none of it to enter his body. He didn't allow none of it to enter his mind. He didn't even allow none of it to enter his heart. He said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. He didn't even allow people to even get in. He said, you know what? Nothing abominable or unclean will enter my body. I don't care what people say. But all this is a part of it. But it says right here, which he selects and hates everything he rejects, right? And it says right here, which he selects and everything he rejects, in order to keep oneself at a distance from all evil. Now you see how. And to become attached to all good works, in order to do truth and justice, right? Going to verse 7, performing going to verse 5. And to become attached to all good works, in order to do truth and justice and uprightness on earth, and not to walk anymore in the stubbornness of a guilty heart and a lecherous eyes, performing everything evil, in order to welcome all those who freely volunteer to carry out Yahuwah's decrees in the covenant of kindness, in order to be united in the counsel of Yahuwah and walk in perfection in his sight. That's the only way you keep Shabbat perfect. In kindness and love. That's what perfection is. That's the seventh letter of the alphabet. But it says right here, complying with all revealed things concerning the regulated times of their stipulations, in order to love all the sons of light, each one according to his lot in Yahuwah's plan. Because everybody has a plan, right? Everybody has a lot in it, and to detest all the sons of darkness, each one in accordance to with his guilt. In Elohim, in Yahuwah's vindication, all those who submit freely to his truth will convey all their knowledge and their energies. He said they're going to convey all of it in their energies. Matter of fact, in their richness to the community of Elohim, in order to refine their knowledge in the truth of Elohim, decrees and marshal their energies. He said you got to control these things. But it says right here, in accordance with his perfect paths and all riches, in accordance with his just counsel, they shall not stray from anyone of all Yahuwah's orders concerning their appointed times. They shall not advance their appointed times, nor shall they retard any one of their feasts. How you say retard? It says that in here. How do you make your feast? How do you retard your feast? How you say? You know how people say you're retarded, right? This is Proverbs 6:16. He said, how do you retard your feast? Right? This is Proverbs 6:16. There are 6 things Yahuwah hates, right? These are all things you're supposed to hate. Anything Yahuwah hates, you hate. Anything he selects. You know what I'm saying? 7 are an abomination, right? 16, that's 13, right? 7 are abomination. Let's see. Haughty eyes. That's not a humble like say, Yahuwah have mercy on me, a sinner. That's not a person. That's a person lifting up their eyes and causing great things in the earth. And then guess what? It says a lying tongue. This is how you retard your feast. A hands that shed innocent blood. Why do you think they killed Yahushua and Passah? A heart that devises wicked plans. Why do you think Judas set him up? Schemes and plots. Feet that make haste to run to evil. He said they run to it. He said run to evil. Run to fornication and adultery. He said, who can I run to? They running right to it. You running right to evil. You supposed to be anonymous watching. He said, I'll be held out my window of man lacking sense. I was watching though. A false witness who breathed out lies. Why do you think they did it to Yahushua? He said, this is how you retarded your feast. You have false witness. Matter of fact, and one who sows discord among brothers and sisters and families and marriages and children's friendships and connections that people have and things that he said, you sowing discord. You know what happens when you sow discord? You know what happens when you create disorders in your body? You know, disorders. You create sicknesses in your body. And then you create sickness in your mind. You spread it to others. And you know what happens after that? You're contagious. You know, I say, you're contagious. Right? You contagious. And you running around, you real contagious, man. And you know what happens? Everybody gets infected with you. Like some people don't want to confess what they do and they sins and stuff. And they want to join with you. You're like, so what you did in your life? What you did? What you still struggling with? Because people need to know. Right? Some people need to know. You say, I don't need to know. Yes, you do. Because some people don't want to reveal what they've done in their life. Because people don't look at them differently. But it says right here, verse 20, my son, keep your father's commandment and forsake not your mother's teaching. Bind them around your heart always. Tie them around your neck. When you walk, they will lead you. And when you lie down, they will watch over you. He said there'd be so much to bar around you. In the teaching, you're going to be so much around you to where they're going to talk to you when you rise, when you lie down, when you rise up, when you walk by the way. It's going to be all around you. He said, "Not my word like fire, it's gonna be like fire surrounding your body." Matter of fact, ain't nothing abominable gonna enter in. Nothing abominable or unclean gonna come in. It shouldn't. Only things that should come in is things written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and that is the bar. That's the only thing that should come in. When you awake, they will talk with you. That's the only thing that should be talking with you if you ain't married. If you wake up. He said, but they should talk with you when you wake up. For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching is light, and reproofs and discipline are a way of life. Right? To preserve you from the prostitute, the evil woman, the adulterous woman, the smooth-speaking, smooth-tongued, get you off focus woman. From the smooth tongue of the adulteress, the Nakash. Smooth speech, right? We're going back to Dead Sea Scrolls 1QS 1 through 11. Going to verse. Going to verse 13. In accordance with the perfect path and all the riches in accordance to the just counsel. They shall not stray from anyone of Elohim's orders concerning the appointed times. They shall not advance their appointed times, nor shall they retard any one of their feet. They shall not veer from his reliable precepts in order to go either to the right or to the left. They shouldn't. You know what happens after that? And all those who enter in the rule of the community shall establish a covenant before Yahuwah in order to carry out all that he commanded, in order not to stray from following him out of any fear or dread or testing that might occur during the dominion of Belial. When they enter the covenant, the priest shall, in the Louis, shall Barak Elohim of victories and all the works of his faithfulness, and all those who enter the covenant shall repeat after them. That's what it said. Right? So this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 6. This Shaly'shy, Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 1. Proverbs chapter 6. Let's go Proverbs chapter 8. Let's go Proverbs chapter 8. In verse 8. It says, all the words of my mouth are righteous, and there is nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are straight to him who understands, and right to those who find knowledge. Take my instructions as silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare with her. Because wisdom is such to your soul, it's a tree of life. I, Hakma, dwell in prudence, in leisure. In meditation, in seeking. I find knowledge and discretion. The fear of Yahuwah is hatred of evil. He said, anything Yahuwah hates, you're supposed to hate. And anything he hates, chooses he hates, right? Anything he accepts, you got to accept that. He says, the fear of Yahuwah is hatred of evil, pride, arrogance, pride, the pride of life, arrogance, overbearing of their own accomplishments, boasting about what they do. He said that's arrogant. And they're in the way of evil and perverted speech I hate. That's anything that's opposite of Yahuwah and his word and how he speaks and his commandments, right? Because you ain't supposed to stir up strife. He says grievous word. He says a soft answer turns away anger. Grievous words stir up wrath. He said, perverted speech I hate. I have counsel and sound hukmah. I have insight. I have strength. By me, malakim reign, and rulers decree what is just. By me, princes rule, and nobles all who govern justly. So you ain't governing justly. You ain't ruling. And you ain't got no insight. If you have, perverted speech, you arrogant and you prideful. But this is the book of. Right, get out of here. Right, so this is Dead Sea Scrolls. It's going over to same book. Dead Sea Scrolls. Dead Sea Scrolls, page 173. Page 173, IQH XIII. It says 13. IQH 13. And you got the verse 20. It says, I give you thanks, Barak are you, Yahuwah, because you did not desert the orphan, nor have you slighted the wretch, the sinner, the humble. For your might is unfathomable, and your kabod is measureless, right? But it's infinite. Because why should he reveal anything to you? He said, we look in a mirror. But why should he reveal anything that's infinite? But it says right here, wonderful heroes, that's what it says, are your attendants, and it says, and with the humble ones in the mud before your feet. And with the humble ones in the mud before your feet. What do you mean by mud? Like we read in Jeremiah chapter 14. He said their faces, they were black to the ground, with sackcloth and ashes. He said, I'm gonna let my ashes be my tears, ashes be my bread, and my tears be my drink. But he said the humble ones with the mud of your feet, because if you understand this, like he told you during Pesach, when they were washing each other's feet, he said, if you can understand this, he said, if you don't wash your feet, you have no inheritance with me. Matter of fact, when the woman was washing his feet with her tears and her hair, he said, this woman, he said, Cuff, you ain't do nothing for me. This woman been doing this since the day I came in here. She ain't never stopped. He said, this day your sins are forgiven. Have mercy on me, a sinner. And a matter of fact, by keeping yourself in that state of mind, Yahuwah will do something for you. He will instruct you in the way. And guess what it says? It says, the humble ones in the mud of your feet, with those apprehensive of justice, to raise from the desolation the community of all, the poor of kindness. But I have been in the target of slander of my rivals. That's why he tells us these are the works of the flesh. Rivalries. The tongue of the rivalries, right? You can do that now. It's very easy. They have a tongue and they lash out. Cause, guess what it says? The tongue of my rivals cause for quarrel. They want to fight. An argument to my neighbors. For jealousy and anger to those who have joined my bereaved. For challenge and grumbling to all my followers. Even those who eat my bread. Oh, they eat my lakam. They eat my bread. Have raised their heel against me. He said, all of them raised their heel against me. They getting ready to hit me on the head. You know how he was at the feet? And Judas left. He said, one of y'all gonna lift your heel against me, because you know what he was doing? He was washing their feet like Nakash as a servant. He said, but one of y'all gonna lift your heel up against me. And you ate my bread. And Jesus said, who's the one, master? Who is the one? When they were dipping in the book of Matthew, he said, the one who dips bread with me and eats with me. He said, is it I? Is it I? Is it I? And when Judas said, it is I, he said, what you do? He said, go do it quickly. He said, they ate my bread, have raised their heel against me. They have mocked me with an unjust tongue. All those who have joined my counsel, the men of my congregation, are stubborn. What did he just say? The men of my congregation are stubborn and mutter around about. He said that's what they do. He says all they do. And you know what else they do? And that's one of the things. It says, and about the mystery which you have concealed in me, they go slandering to the sons of destruction. He said, so you finna go slandering to To those who don't even worship Yahuwah, we just talked about in the book of Exodus. He said that anybody who offer any position to any other Elohim, he said, let them be devoted to destruction other than Yahuwah. If they don't do it to Yahuwah, let them be devoted to destruction. So you finna go do it to the people who don't even know me. And you know what they do? In order to show my past, and because of their guilt, you have concealed the source of understanding and the foundation of truth. He said, I won't give it to you. He said, to whom this person will I look? Him will a contrite and poor heart, who trembles at my debar. He said, I'm going to let sinners in the way. Matter of fact, to this person will I look. But he said, I'm going to hide the source of understanding and the foundation of truth from them. You know why? They plot evil in their heart. That's why he's going to hide it from them. Men of Belial have opened a lying tongue like vipers, venom that spreads to the extremities like crawlers in the dust. They shoot and grab serpent poisons, against which there is no incantation. There is no incantation. It has become an incurable pain, a wasting disease in the inwards of your servant. That's the only reason they're doing it. Because they're trying to create Bionakith and Mastama to enter your body and cause a wasting disease. That's the only reason they're even doing what they're doing. That's the only reason they're slandering. That's the only reason they're plotting and want to quarrel and fight. That's the only reason they're doing all these things and creating all these things. And even got the sons of destruction using it the very same thing. That's the only reason they're trying to do. They're trying to find a way in. And guess what? You got to be just like Yarushalum. Nothing unclean or abominable shall enter in. But only the things that's written in the Lamb's Book of Life. These people are not written in the Lamb's Book of Life. They're the sons of destruction. And you join to them, and then you're feeding them the sons of destruction. And you know what you do? Which makes the Ruach stagger. That's all they wanted to do, make you stagger in judgment. Because Abraham staggered not. They want to make you stagger in a moon. And in Mon, it makes an end of strength. That's like strong drink. It's like getting drunk. They try to get you drunk with it. So that he is unable to remain firm in his place. So they don't want you to stand firm in a moon in your belief. That's the only reason they even doing it. Why do you think they do it? He said, I hear a whole bunch of stuff. But he said, yeah, I know why they're doing it. Because I know why. It's only to make you stagger in belief, make you stagger and be like a drunkard, like the people who talking. That's all they are. They're drunk. But guess what happens? And it says, they have overtaken me in the narrow places. Oh, where there is no escape. We almost finished. And not. They announce the charge against me with the heart. Their grumblings with verses in harmony, with demolition and destruction. Resentment has taken hold. Resentment has taken hold. This is not what love don't do. Ahab don't do that. Resentment has taken hold of me and pangs like laborers. Because all he's thinking about what people are saying. And what people are doing, everybody knows about it. And it becomes like a real heavy burden on you. And it creates resentment. That's what Satan does. When he sees that you have something on the inside and you're getting instructions and understanding, and it's hid from them. We almost finished. Resentment has taken hold of me and pains like the laborers of a woman giving birth. You know why it's like that? Because it's a part of the birthing process. It's a part of the birthing process. Just like Kawul was supposed to bring forth children, he said, your seed going to be an enmity to the other seed, the certain Akash seed. Just like he said, Adam in pain, he told the woman in pain, you're going to bring forth children, and the same thing with Adam. In pain. It's a bone. You're going to till the ground, and you're going to eat bread. You know what he did? We just read, he just ate bread. They eat my bread. You're going to eat bread to the day of death. It's a part of the birthing process. So resentment and people quarreling and fighting and creating things and slanderous tongue and spreading it to the sons of destruction, knowing that the men in these congregations are stubborn in heart. Matter of fact, he said that's a part of the birthing process for you. It's like you're in labor. It's a part of your birthing process. When the resentment is getting built inside of you, he said that's a part of the birthing process. He said no need to be afraid of it. It's a part of the birthing process. It hurt too. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to hurt. It says, resentment has taken hold of me in pains like the labors of a woman giving birth. My heart is in turmoil within me. Isn't that what happens when you giving birth? I have dressed in black. What happens when you dress in black? In sackcloth and ashes. You get into the humble state of mind. Because he's going to instruct the humble in the way. He's going to instruct the humble in the way. He said, I get in all black, and my tongue sticks to my palate because they surround me with calamity of their heart. He said, my tongue sticks to the palate. He said, now my ashes will be my bread, and my tears will be my drink. Because now there's nothing I can do. There's so many. You know what happens after that? Why do you think it was darkness from the 6th to the 9th hour when Yahushua was on Qahalath? And it says, because they surround me and with calamity of their heart and in their intentions appeared to me in bitterness. The light of my face has become gloomy with deep darkness. My countenance has changed into gloom. And you, my Elohim, have opened a broad space in my heart, but they have increased the narrowness and have wrapped me in darkness. I am eating the bread of weeping. There we go. I am eating the bread of weeping. My drink is tears without end. For my eyes are blinded by the grief of my soul, by the bitterness of the day. Here we go. Agony and pain surround me. Shame covers my face. My bread has turned into quarrel, and my drink into argument. This is a part of the birthing process. He's like, I didn't even start anything. He said, everybody else did. And the stubbornness of men and the things in their slanderous tongue and they spread the sons of destruction. And everybody's gathering and creating resentment in my heart and creating the bitterness in my heart. He says, now it's become my tears and my drink. And he says, just like me fasting, he says, just like my palate to my mouth and my tears have now become my bread has now become my ashes and my tears become my drink. And it says, and agony and pain surround me. Shame covers my face. My bread has turned into quarrel and my drink into argument. They have entered in my bones to make my spirit stagger and make an end of strength in accordance with the mysteries of offense. They who by their guilt have altered the deeds of Elohim. For I am tied with ropes. Which cannot be untied, with chains which cannot be broken. A strong rampart surrounds me, iron barns of bronze doors which cannot be opened. My Geol is comparable to the deep, without there being the streams of Belial surround my soul. Okay. So he said it surrounds his soul. This is the last thing. He said Belial surrounds my soul, right? And people say, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do in that situation? This is what you need to do. 2 Corinthians 6 and 11. We have spoken freely to you, Corinth, our heart is wide open. You know what he just read in the Dead Sea Scrolls? He said, my heart is wide open. He made a big old, it's open. Matter of fact, it was huge for that bitterness and that resentment. You are not restricted by us, but you are restricted by your own affections. In return, I speak as to children. Widen your hearts also, because it's a part of the birthing process. He said, when you have stubborn men like that who create quarrel and argument, he said that's your fruit. He said that's your part of your birthing process. And he's showing resentment and bitterness in your heart, that's a part of the birthing process. He said, open your hearts wide also. You know what it says also? Verse 14, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness? Didn't we just read that in the Dead Sea Scrolls? He said, you got to hate everything Yahuwah hates. Everything he chooses to hate. But he also says, you're supposed to accept the things that he loves, right? But then also, he said, the sons of darkness, the stubborn people. What it says, or what fellowship have light with darkness? And what accord has Mashiach with Belial? He said, what accord have Mashiach with Belial? Why? Because that's what these people are. Because that's what they are. That's what they are, right? Keep going. It says, or what proportion does a believer share with an unbeliever? So now you see what unbelievers do. Because they don't believe it. And what agreement has a temple of Elohim with idols? Now you see why you can't let nothing become abominable enter in, or nothing unclean. Only things that's written in the Lamb's Book of Life. For we are the temple of the living Elohim. As Elohim said, I will make my dwelling among them. And I will walk among them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. He said, so why would he tell us to open our hearts to that? Why would he say, why would you be wide open for that? There's a reason why. We almost finished. I didn't expect this. But it said right here, going to Dead Sea Scrolls, back to Dead Sea Scrolls, verse 2. It says, I have dressed in black, and my tongue sticks to my palate, because they surround me with calamity in their heart, and their intentions appear to me in bitterness. The light of my face has become gloomy and deep darkness, and my countenance has changed into glooms. Changed into gloom. And it says, verse 34, my drink is tears without end, for my eyes are blinded by the grief of my soul, by the bitterness of the day. Agony and pain surround me, shame covers my face. My bread has turned into quarrel, and my drink into argument. They have altered my bones to make my spirit stagger, and to make an end of strength in accordance to the mysteries of offense. They who by their guilt have altered the deeds of Elohim, for I am tied with ropes, which cannot be untied. He said, why would you not untie them? With chains which cannot be broken, a strong rampart surrounds me. Iron bronze doors which cannot be opened. My Gaol is comparable to the deep without their being. The streams of Belial surround my soul. He said these men, these people of Belial. He said, what fellowship did Mashiach have with Belial? How did Mashiach have fellowship with Belial? This is how he did. He said, why would you do that? This is the book of, we almost finished, man. I've been talking for a while. Let me stop. This is, I've been talking for a while. I had to stop. Right, this is the book of This is the book of Romans. I think it's Romans. Romans 12 and 18. Yeah, let's go to Romans 12 and 18. Romans 12, 18. Romans 12, 18. Romans 12 and 18. And 14. Barak those who persecute you. Going to verse 9. Let love, ahab, be genuine. Abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good. Love one another with affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Going to verse 14. Barak those who persecute you. Barak and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another, harmony, and do not be haughty. That's things Yahuwah hates. But associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in all. Now you see why he said open your heart. He said I have a big hole. He said all these things. He said sons of Belial surround me. They did to Yahusha too. If possible, so far it depends on you to live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of Elohim. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says Yahuwah. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him drink. For in doing so, you will heap burning coals on his head. And do not be overcome by evil. And I see why he tell you, he said, man, resentment and bitterness and all the things, the slanderous, the stubborn men, the sons of Belial are surrounding me. He's like, do not be overcome with evil. Because remember, he said it entered the heart. He said, man, it was like, man. It is destroying his inside. And it was painful too. Matter of fact, he was dressed in black, hit the ground, he went black to the ground, and he realized, he said, my bread is my ashes and my tears is my drink. And I'm in bitter pain and agony. But he said, don't be overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good. That's how you overcome it. He said, you overcome it by giving them something to eat. Because remember, he said, those who ate my bread have now lifted up their hand, healed against me. But this is what he said. This is Deuteronomy, chapter 8, verse 1. We're going, this last two things we've done. The whole commandment that I command you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land that Yahuwah Elohim, your fathers. And you shall remember the whole way that Yahuwah, your Elohim, has led you, these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you. Because he's going to instruct the humble in the way. Matter of fact, he's going to instruct the sinners in the way. Testing you to know what is in your heart, whether you will keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you and led you to hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. And you say, why would he do that? There's a reason why. There is a reason why, right? So this is the book of Sirach, chapter 3, 17 through 23. He says, my son, go on in your business, go on in thy business in meekness. Why? Because the meek going to inherit the earth. He said the meek going to inherit the earth, right? So shall thou be beloved of him that is approved. He said, why would he say that? He said, go on with meekness, right? Because there's a whole point to that, right? This is the book of Psalms. This is the book of Psalms, verse 45 and 3. Psalms 45 and 3. Gird your sword on your thigh, O mighty one, in splendor and majesty. In your majesty ride victoriously for the cause of truth and meekness and righteousness. Let your right hand teach you awesome deeds. He said, teach you awesome deeds, right? So shall thou be beloved. Going to Sirach 3:17 through 23. My son, go on thy way, thy business in meekness. So shalt thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. Why? If you stay in a humble state, you continue to struck you in the way, no matter if people do all these things around you. Matter of fact, all the slanderous tongues and all the things that people create, he said, guess what? He said, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. He said, the more greater you are, the more humble you should become. It says, many are in high places. He said, people with higher titles and things that they proclaim and boast about. Many are in high places. Many are in high place and renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek. He said, mysteries are revealed to the meek. For the power of Yahuwah is great and honor with the lowly. That's why he told you to associate with the lowly. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men understand. Why? Because we just read in the Dead Sea Scrolls, he said he hid the wisdom and understanding from these type of people. He said more is showed unto thee than men understand. Why? Because Yahuwah sees you. He said he gonna instruct you in the way, and he's gonna give you knowledge that other people don't know, and you're gonna understand it. You're gonna understand it, right? This is the last thing, and I'm done. This is the last thing. Yeah, this is the last thing. This is the last thing. This is Psalm 32, Tehillim 32. Psalm 32 and 5. He says, I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to Yahuwah, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. Therefore, let everyone who is godly or righteous offer prayer to you at the time when you may be found. Surely in the rush of great waters they shall not reach him. You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance. He said you don't surround me with the sons of Belial. He said you surround me with shouts of deliverance. What do you say? What do you mean deliverance? Verse 8 says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. Because he's going to instruct this humble, and the sinners in the way. And I will counsel you with my eye upon you. And it says, verse 9 says, be not like a horse or a mule without understanding. Aren't those sons of Belial like that? The ones who create quarrel and arguments and fighting. As a matter of fact, they slander and go with a slanderous tongue, the sons of destruction. And then they surround you with quarrel, and then they make you, make you have resentment and bitterness in your own heart and create it inside of you by the things they're saying about you. And then what do they do after that? Then you get into sackcloth and ashes and tears, and now you become sorrowful. And it's painful too, because it's a part of the birthing process. But he says, verse 6 says, therefore let everyone who is godly offer prayer to you at the time when you may be found. Psalms 32 and 6. That word for godly, Psalms 32 and 6. Psalms 32 and 6. The word for godly is chesed. He said, let the people, the ones who are kind, that word is chesed, the kind. A righteous man is kind. That's what it says. A godly man. A Chdsh one. A merciful one. Let the kind ones offer prayer to you at the time when you may be found. Why? Because he is honored with the lowly, right? Not with the haughty. All right, so we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at his life and understanding. We look at the humble and meek, and to go on our way in meekness and humility, and not to create the arguments and the quarreling and the fighting as stubborn men do, and women in this world. Not to sow bitterness and resentment inside of people's heart. For even some have even confessed their sins to other people, and they taking those sins and they spread them about all the sons of destruction. And by doing so, you've now created the very thing inside of people's heart, but not even knowing it's a part of the birthing process. It's a part of the pains and the things and the thorns and the thistles of this world. And we should not overcome them with evil, but overcome evil with good. And knowing that through all these resentment, all these sons of Belial, and the desire of them wanting to fellowship with people, knowing to spread their cancer to others, knowing that these things are inside of the body, and knowing these things are inside of every single one of us, and knowing that these quarrels and fighting and these things can take place in our mind and our heart, or it can be external from other people, we need not yield ourselves over to the evil inclination and to strengthen that which is already inside of us. For though people may laugh and mock, and though people may laugh at your mistakes in your life, the things you may say, it may be funny, it may be something that they can joke about, but we know there's a day coming where everybody will have to give an account for everything and every single word that they spoke out of their mouth, whether it's through your voice and the vibration that come out of your mouth, or what you thought in your thoughts. For we should not even think about things that are evil and wrong, for these things should not even inhabit our houses and our body. For we know that we walk by a moonin and not by our iron, knowing that the pride of life and the lust of the eyes are evident round about. For we all look in ourselves, and look in our inward man, and look in our inward being, and search ourselves continually, and see if there's anything in our heart and our mind that may cause us not to inherit the city where there's going to be no need for the sun, moon, and stars, no for the menorah or any of the things that you normally would see in the temple. But you will be he said that Yahuwah will be the light thereof, and the Lamb, and Yahushua will be the menorah. And we want, he said, inherit that kingdom that's without end. So we look at ourselves, we still look to stay in a humble and humility and lowly state of mind, continually to search ourselves that Yahuwah may instruct us in the way to his kingdom, and to show us the way. To show us the way. For Yahushua said, I am the way, the truth, and I am Chag. He said, I am the rock, I am the Amath, and I am Chag, and I bring life to your soul. And by me leading you, he gave us his steps. He said, when he was reviled, he reviled not back. He didn't let evil overcome him. When he was persecuted, he threatened them not. Even though they had bitterness and resentment, even they gave him a cup of wine, the sour wine, and he gave him bitter wine. You know what he didn't do? He committed himself to him who judges justly. Right? So we look at ourselves and we look at our inward being. For we go on our way with, he said, go on our business with in meekness. Why? Because he's going to beautify the meek with salvation. And mysteries are revealed unto the meek. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.